Welcome back to It Tastes Like Burning. This Matt,
This Jesse.
and we've got some hot, fresh, and new and exciting news for you. But before we dive off into that, if you ever have any questions, concerns, comments, issues, statements, queries, questions, you can find us at ittasteslikeburningcast at gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning Cast. And if you're feeling particularly supportive, you can jump over on Patreon and find us on It Tastes Like Burning Cast. And when you're going through everything, don't forget to like, click, and subscribe. You'd be shocked how much that helps. Jesse, what new endeavors are you working on?
So, my wife and I have been working, mostly her. I'm just the creative mind, which is a scary thought. But uh, we're working on getting some merch out for you guys. And so, by the time this publishes, hopefully we'll have a link in the description for a merch store. So, you can buy t-shirts and caps and shot glasses and just a, a menagerie. Let's go with menagerie of different stuff that pertains to the podcast. We've been working on some kind of crazy cool stuff, and Matt and I've sat here for the last 2 hours playing with AI, uh, making different items, and uh, that's kind of where I was going to go with was like, how can you use AI in the fire service? How are we going to use it for the podcast? How can AI be helpful, right? So been talking to a lot of chiefs and training guys from all over the place, and they're learning that you can get on the old chat GPT and get you a course description pretty easy. You can get some stuff made for a class pretty easy, but I think it goes way deeper than that, and there's some stuff that we're working on with some artwork and some graphics and some stuff for different things for these merch items that hopefully y'all really dig. Like, hopefully this stuff's off the chain for you. Matt's still playing with this one image. Like, he's been deep into this image for about an hour now, trying to
I'm
trying to
so
get it worked
close.
out. He's so
I'm
close.
close, so
You
close.
know, if you can get it to not have 4 arms or 7 legs.
Yeah, or the whiskey tumbler sticking out of its forehead.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all these things that AI is really good at, and then you look at some of this stuff and you're like, yeah, it's never taken over the world. It can't even get a picture right. It drew an airplane a while ago with like one wheel. It was a one-wheel airplane that had like propellers and 7 wings, and maybe like a whale mouth. I don't know. It was crazy. But hopefully we get all this stuff lined out and we can get you going on it, and have some more offerings from the old podcast, some ways that you can not only help support us, but get a little piece of something that's worth having. uh, you know it's cool and neat and interesting, and hopefully we have something for everybody. I know that there's going to be some t-shirts. I know that there's stickers. I know there's shot glasses. In fact, we already have shot glasses coming for us for in studio use only, right? And
Right.
and hopefully some of these things are just ringing a bell. We've got some stuff with the old woodchucks in the works.
Yes.
Got woodchuck stuff,
Yeah, possibly a calendar.
possibly a calendar, uh maybe some art pieces. uh we're getting really excited about,
A children's book Jesse's trying to write.
I did write a children's book a while ago, sort of, but I am going to author a children's book. I had no aspirations of that when I started.
So while Jesse's
What
looking at
what
this,
in the world do we got going on here? It tastes like burning an American volunteer fire service. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, no. The one is double fisting glasses of whiskey. I like it. Got microphones.
correct.
Yes. I don't know what the thing is in the top left corner.
Oh, it's I thought it was a propeller. I'm going to call it a wall mounted microphone. And below that, it appears to be a lamp that's actually a neon sign that says It Tastes Like Podcast.
It does taste like podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. So some of the crazy stuff we're thinking about, like that might be a calendar page, that might be an art piece deal, but man, there's so candles. If we were to make an It Tastes Like Burning candle, what should it smell like? Cigarettes and broken dreams?
Well, but see, I liked my idea of a candle because one, it would save us a lot of money and it would also be realistic.
Just like runoff from a structure fire with insulation and a wick.
Yeah. Yeah, just take insulation off of a single wide or double wide trailer,
Shove it in a jar.
stuff it in a jar, and then just stick it in whatever puddles on the side of the house or abandoned house. Let's
Yeah,
be
yeah,
clear.
yeah. People didn't suffer from this. Yes. Okay.
And yeah, just stick a wick in it.
Yeah.
It'll be legit.
I'm thinking leather, maybe a leather scent, as an homage to the leather helmet, leather gloves, leather boots, the leather bucket that I got for Christmas that's absolutely fantastic. Uh, did get a awesome leather fire bucket for Christmas.
So close.
It is getting close. They have kind of creepy looking hands. And that one has 72 chins.
Well, that one's me.
No, that's the skinny one.
It has a
It
has a goatee though.
it does, yeah, maybe. Has more chins than a Chinese phone book. Oh wait, we can't say that.
But if you have any ideas for the absurdity of our merch store or just something entirely retarded, yeah, we could use retarded. It's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine. It's
retarded's
fine.
back.
It's fine. There's so much cool stuff and want to offer enough stuff that basically there's something there for everyone, right?
Right.
And a menagerie. I think I've said that 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Of just selections of stuff. And a lot of these things you'll be able to get multiple different graphics on it. Like I am the least artistic person on the face of the earth. And I wrote a children's book tonight.
Right.
So the power of AI is great, right?
But it has its limits.
It does have its limits.
So it turns out that it doesn't do art. And I'm going to sound like such a
Art snob?
yeah, a non. Okay, I'm a schmuck. But needless to say, it can't do art styles. It's stupid. Uh it has its limitations. Everyone that's scared of AI, I'm telling you, AI is not a thing. Like, don't worry about it. You don't have to worry about your toaster attacking you tomorrow night in your sleep. Uh because the AI is extremely
Well,
limited.
it's going to attack you in the bathtub.
Well, that's usually well, if you help yourself,
It's a shower toaster.
it's it's not the same as attacking you
Right.
if you're
Right.
cuddling it.
But the reality is that there's 1,001 other uses for this, right? In the fire service, right? I'd venture to say that if you needed an SOP or an SOG, it might get you 90% there.
Oh, I would actually shoot.
Well, let's just type in. Let's write I need or write a fire department and SOP for
A driving policy.
driving.
Class B or equipment over 26,000 pounds. You got to stipulate a state. So let's put Texas.
Equipment.
So while Jesse's typing all that out, the one thing I can tell you in the little bit of playing that I've done with the AI, and you're asking it questions, do not ask it general questions. You need to be exceedingly specific in what you're wanting. Because if you don't do that, then you might be getting a SOP that's a custom for Macau and not your local area. Did it give you anything?
It did. So it gave me a format that looks relatively okay, right? It didn't give me. It says to establish safe and standardized procedures for operating fire department vehicles weighing over 26,000 pounds, ensuring compliance with the Texas state laws, NFPA standards, and department policies. And then undoubtedly our internet's garbage here in the studio, so it lost connection and we got sidetracked on it. But it's literally going step by step, and it's in a format that's
And that's the
usable.
kicker. And that's what I was going to say. If it gives you the format, you can fill in the spicy details that you prefer: eligibility, requirements, considerations, whatever. Uh, and that's just one example. Uh, if you have another department's SOPs that you prefer or SOGs, you might be able to feed that into the system and say, reference this document, but make it specific to our organization with X amount of members and this level of experience.
It's writing now, and it's absolutely like you can find a few things in here. It's going so fast I can't keep up, but like it's going in depth detail. It's giving you 10 bullet points, 10 different things from accident and incident reporting to post incident procedures, up to pre-trip inspections, operational guidelines, speed limits, clearances, parking, braking. Like
And I want
it's
to add
giving you everything in here.
and I want to add one thing. Like, you can say, give me 15 points, make them 15 legal points, 15 department related points. Uh, you can specify that you're rural or if you're inner city. Like, do not be afraid to get specific, and do not be afraid to reference a specific document that you know is going to be online.
Like it says operators must successfully complete fire apparatus driver operator course accredited by, in this case it says SFFMA or similar organization. Training must include pre-trip inspection, vehicle dynamics and weight distribution, emergency response driving techniques, Texas specific laws for emergency vehicles, and refresher training shall be conducted annually or as required by the department.
Right.
Like, come on, guys. That's 80% of the wordy stuff that you need, right? And that's one of hundreds of different options of things that you could be doing.
So
One
I was talking to our station captain, Station One, and we were talking about maybe taking our articles and bylaws and feeding it into AI and asking it to catch any conflicts of interest.
are just conflicts in the textual
Right.
department. I'm feeding something else into it.
So while he's hammering away on that, the thing I want to just again remind everyone is be really specific. Don't be vague, okay? Because vague's not going to help you. Be very specific as to what you're wanting help with. Give the department size, the state you're in, regional considerations, experience considerations of where everyone's starting at. Is it enhancing a current SOP, maybe try and upload that, or are you starting over from blank? Just kind of pick and choose, but be specific. Uh, be specific again to the state, country, because you got to remember that if you leave it really vague, it could give you the emergency vehicle operations handbook out of Cairo. So just be considerate of that.
Come on. The internet's being terrible. As soon as I start doing this. So I asked it to write a job description for a volunteer fire department captain in Texas. And of course, the internet's being stupid.
Did you specify what type of captain? Training, station,
No,
rescue?
no, I left it vague. Uh, but it's obviously got a connectivity issue right now because it just keeps telling me.
Do you know which AI interface you would use if you were trying to take a current set of documents and upload them and
So
have the AI just check it over?
there's all these add-on features to different AIs and different levels. Like the free one doesn't do as much as the paid one, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And so I'm working with my daughter, who is a computer science major right now, to create some ability. There's some add-ons, right, to where you can have it feed it in PDFs, and it can take this information and create something else out of it, like a chart or a graph, or look at different things and then plot it back to a spreadsheet. So uh I'm not going to go into super big details about what we're working on, but uh because it's got a commercial value to it, basically, right?
Right. It's
It's
proprietary.
proprietary at this moment. And but she's developing software to use the AI to do what she wants it to do. And at, obviously it's going to take a lot of work.
Sure.
But she needs a project, and it's good for her as a sophomore in college to kind of start learning how to use what she's learning in college in a real world scenario. Boy, that was loud. You banged that hard as you could bang that. Oh yeah, it's definitely chair swapping time. Yeah, Matt's doing some furniture rearranging because he ended up in the worst chair in the building. Has 1.5 armrests. But
Well, the big problem with that other chair is that it makes the old classic chief lean pretty hard.
yeah, yeah. So I wish I could get the old GPT or the GPT over here, but it's just I think I really think it's the internet. Something went wrong for the 87th time. But you can use it for all that stuff. I mean, I know Gene's used it to write like course descriptions and course outlines and referenced NFPA with stuff, and he's used it for different things like that, to where it's bringing in some outside sources that are readily available on the internet to create content. We've been playing with it for 2 or 3 days now with this art stuff and creating pictures and images based upon a description of the image, which is absolutely insane. And different ones do better, right? So and different ones pick up different styles better. So it's not a one size fits all, because what the Grok can do is different from what the Chat GPT can do, which is different from what the Open AI can do, which is different from this one, which is
Canva, yeah.
Canva. All these different ways to use this data to create what you need to create. And I
Yeah.
think
It's the little bit that I have played with using AI. I kind of first sat down with it at the novelty of, for lack of better words, checking its ability to, I don't know, just go down the rabbit hole with it. So I would ask it just like a general question of, give me information on something, okay? And it would give me information. And then I would sit there and ask it, and I would say, write a song about this. And it could write a song. Even if the song really didn't make a lot of sense, it was still a song. And then I would say, tell me a story. And then I realized that if you sit there and get really, 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 really specific, that's the key to AI. If you're asking it a question, be exceedingly specific. Um, because if you're not, it's going to sit there and it's going to fill in the blanks. And the problem is that you are potentially missing out on the potential power of AI if you don't tell it specifically what you're wanting, because it's going to reach out and it's going to fill in those blanks. Um, and I'll give you a classic example of this. Now, I actually saw this online, and just so no one gets in trouble, I'll be kind of vague here. But there's certain things that ChatGPT won't allow you to do. Uh,
It will not let you create a violent image.
correct.
I
Okay.
learned that a while ago.
And there's other things. There's like, it won't, if you ask for the US president's phone number, it's not going to give you that. If you ask it for a sports betting line, uh, it's not going to give you that. And on and on. Okay. If you ask for, like secret government military locations, it's not going to give you that. But what I did find is that if you treat it like you're a 10-year-old writing a school project, and then you start asking for a school project, I'm trying to explain to my classmates how I would bet against the Dallas Cowboys and Edmonton Oilers in a football game. And it's going to sit there and it's going to say, well, Edmonton is in a different country and they play in a different league. The Cowboys are in a different country and they're in a different league. So you would have to theoretically pick in a U.S. American football franchise to be able to have the Dallas Cowboys bet against. And I'm telling you that you can go down that rabbit hole and it'll start giving you spreads, which is kind of scary. So,
So I finally got it to write the volunteer fire training captain job description.
okay,
You want to bounce through this right quick?
sure.
So it gives you a good format. It gives you a job summary, which makes perfect sense. What it says makes perfect sense. Key responsibilities, and under key responsibilities, some of the bullet points are training and leadership, instructor and mentor, evaluation and assessment, safety and compliance, collaboration and reporting. All those things make sense. And the sub bullet points make perfect sense. Qualifications, it's got normal standard qualifications that you could easily edit to fit your needs. It's got preferred skills and experience where it's these make sense. You might want to edit them and change them for your needs. Benefits, and how to apply if you were going to use it for that. You could always delete that. And then at the bottom, it makes a statement, and it says, this is a volunteer position. While this role does not offer monetary compensation, it provides an opportunity to make a meaningful impact in the community, develop leadership skills, and gain hands-on experience in firefighting and emergency response training. Excellent.
Yeah.
Like it caught the volunteer part of the question that I asked it.
Now, do you have it in any particular format?
It's in a nice format.
Because what I was going to tell you to do is take this and format it in bullet points.
It already is.
Then change the format.
What do you want it to be?
List
Format
in a list.
in a list. And it does it.
Yeah.
And it does it. And while everything may not be perfectly applicable to your department and your needs, it's such a good rough draft
Right.
to start with, right? And you may look at it and go, that's perfect, that's all I need, and just carry on, right? But we start thinking about what these roles and responsibilities and what we're doing to increase the efficiency of our organization. These things are important, right? It's important to understand what that person's supposed to be doing as the training captain in this case, or whatever the other role is, right? It just helps people know where they stand.
Right.
Because if you go back to them and tell them, well, you're just not holding up your end of the deal. Well, what was my end of the deal, right? I don't understand. There was no description. And we're not, and I'm going to just throw myself under the bus, right? I'm not this great author. I'm not this great technical writer, although I've done quite a bit of it. I'm following Matt's spelling class. How does that work?
I spelled cat with the K and the T, and I'd still misspell it.
Yeah. So it's just use the tools that are available for you to make your life easier when you can use them. It's not the end all be all, not at all, but it's a good jumping off point, right?
Right.
You know, if you were wanting to create posts for Facebook for recruiting or marketing, or I will tell you, I dumped in Chat GPT, how do you recruit volunteer firefighters? And it spits out a summary, let's call it a summary, that basically reflects everything we've ever told you in this podcast. And it pulled that from the depths of the internet. And it was good validation for me.
But it's also scary.
But it is scary, right? If the stupid computer can figure it out,
Right.
then
And then if
what the hell is the problem?
and we're running into this, and we're going to sound like kind of elitist schmucks here. Our problem that we're running into is that our problems, we really wish we had another adult to talk to, and we don't have one.
No, it's hard.
Like, because it's not an internet reference thing. And the other big volunteer departments, good volunteer departments, they're just set up differently than us. And they're either an ESD, or they're compensated somehow, or they have,
Combination,
yeah,
or blah 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 blah. It's so strange, and it's, even though we have so many commonalities, and we have in-depth and good conversations with chiefs and stuff all over the world, everywhere's different, and I think that's an important piece. But there's guiding principles that
right,
carry you through those differences. So even the completely different department, certain things that we do resonate, and they work there too, regardless, right? Whether it's following a marketing plan, or it's developing a training program to achieve the goals of the department, and the expectations of the public, right? Uh, those things carry through, doesn't matter where you're at or what you're doing. Now, the way you get there may be different because it takes money. Let's be honest. A lot of the things we do, a lot of departments can't afford to do it the way we do it.
yeah. No, we have like first world problems when it comes to stuff like that.
Right.
We have an extreme luxury of being able to sit there and just say, well, we have this sock full of nickels. Maybe we can throw that at this and see what happens.
Right. Yeah, it's not that they're doing something different, or they have to do something. They just have to do it in a different way, right? They a lot of it boils down to just work. You got to put the work in.
Right. That's the big separating factor It's not skill. It's not education. It's not experience. I would
Not
even argue it's
finance.
not finance. It's, are you actually putting the time, energy, and effort in to figure out a solution to your problem?
How many chapters did you do slideshows for today?
2 yesterday and 2 today.
Okay, so that's 4 chapters that you narrated slideshows that are all hour plus videos, right?
I think one of them's a shorty. I got lucky.
Oh, lucky. Better lucky than good, right?
I made up on the other one. It's close to 2.5 hours.
Right. So that's just the work of it, right? That's work that somebody's got to put the energy and effort into the work. And
Let's go
does
down that rabbit hole.
does it have to be the fire chief?
No, in this case, it shouldn't be the fire chief.
But in this case, you like doing it.
I know how important it is.
Right.
That's the difference. I know how important it is. I know where it's going to put our organization in a position locally and at a state level. And here's the craziest part about it, I know that it's needed. And I'm not doing it for us, I'm doing it for everyone around us.
Yeah.
Now, our people will benefit the most from it because we're smart enough to actually use it.
Yeah.
That, and we're able to actually crack the whip and make them do it. But I'm not doing it for us. Hell, our program's already in place and been highly beneficial. It supported a VEIS. Why the hell would I update it for us?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. That's just the truth.
Yeah. We could have rolled on what we're doing, but in the interest of, well, truly in the interest of being a step ahead and better, right? That's it.
Well, but again, here we are talking about volunteers and making volunteers better and trying to promote volunteerism. But if we don't actually take the time, energy, effort into promoting the volunteers around us, not our department, the volunteers around us, and making them better, then we're full of crap.
Yeah.
And me doing this little part for this new and updated, refreshed slideshow. And let me tell you, it's excruciating. Okay. I would rather stab a soldering iron into my temple than read through some of these classes.
But would you rather teach this one time to a computer and make a video, or teach it twice a year for the next 5 years?
10 years if it holds to the last class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I teach it once and I actually train hundreds of people
One time.
one time.
And you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I only need to train 2 a year. Okay. Still worth doing. Right? It's still worth doing the video. It's still worth putting it into a program that automates so much of the work down the road.
Right.
You're going to
And
do
makes my training battalion chief's lives easier, makes my training captain's life easier, and it makes my 2 training lieutenants' life easier. It makes your life easier, and it makes every other instructor that helps with those particular class life easier. And every other chief that's smart enough to send people to any sort of training makes their life easier. I mean, this is a net win. And when I say net win, there's no loss.
Let's bird dog on something right quick. By the way, we did implement battalion chiefs.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're trained to know what the span of control is. We're trained to understand how many people can be below us, and our organizational chart was turning into like
A pancake.
yes, with a candle on it.
Right.
Right? It looked like a birthday cake, right? It's with one candle. Like this, the one candle's got 2 lumps on it, and a flame at the top, but it just went horizontally after that, right? It was you, then me, and then 9 captains under me.
Right.
And it was just ridiculous. And it was, for whatever reason, the department pushed back on this, and just had this idea that it wasn't needed and it wasn't worth it, but they didn't understand what it really meant. And we were going to do it regardless, right? It was going to happen, but we did the due diligence
Well, yeah, I
and
mean,
and explained it and made it understood. And
there's a couple of factors to it. So even before Jesse was assistant chief, me and the previous assistant chief had talked about this, but we knew that we had to do it right. Okay. And the way to do it right at the particular time was to not just create the positions. And I'm glad we didn't do that.
yeah, no, I am too.
And we bounced into the year that Jesse got elected. And we were having this talk about battalion chiefs. And I kind of told him, like, because as he came in, he was, he kind of looked at it and he's like, Christ. I'm like, well, here's the intent. It's basically to pregame everyone. And with your 9 captains, 37 captains, what you do is that you start promoting battalion chiefs and then you just promote the captains. Okay. So you're not actually creating more officers. What you're doing is creating a ladder.
Right.
And this particular year, all of our captains, who have nothing but really good things to say about, but it's really, really difficult when the training captain has one idea and the operations captain has another idea and the station captain has another idea. Well, Christ, what happens when they all get not in agreement? It creates headaches for us. Well, these battalion chiefs eliminate that. Here's the other part of this. Uh, I truly think, and I might be wrong, Jesse can correct me, and he is more than welcome to correct me here. I am the definition of a non micromanagement chief.
Yes, absolutely.
I
And
do not interfere until I have to interfere.
yeah, and I'm the same way, right? It Now you might ask, the guys that work for me be like, that guy's terrible, but that until I have to part is what's important there, right? If you're gonna not make decisions or stumble trying to make a decision, I'm gonna help you make a decision. But I don't want to do that. I will do that. I don't want to do that, right? I'm also the most uh what's the I want to say condescending, but I can be that, but a passive aggressive. I am the most passive aggressive to the point of aggressive person that you may ever find on the face of this earth. Like, I can do passive aggressive to, like,
Here's here's the difference because I always think that I'm the king of passive aggressive. The difference is my passive aggressive is patience. I have two superhuman abilities. The first one's paperwork, and the second one is patience. The difference is that I'll play the long game, and I mean long. I may wait 5 years. I'm terrible like that. Um, and it's it's just one of those things that back to not micromanaging people. And I did. I kind of screwed myself several times because I would get these captains where they'd be not diabolically opposed, but they'd be opposed to each other. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to come in and give them a solution. I'm not.
yeah, make them figure it out.
I'm going to make them figure it out. And then the problem is that they don't. So what you get is a minor issue and a minor disagreement, and then it carries on for weeks and months and becomes a festering wound with the two people. Well, at this time I've already moved on and completely forgot about it. Um, and it makes for a kind of a weird, precarious situation sometimes. And then as you're trying to sort out what the hell's actually wrong, they tell you, well, 6 months ago, Dingus McGee stepped on my foot and that made me sad. And it's like, what? Well, I told you about it. Yeah, I was expecting you to talk to Dingus. Like, you didn't? Why wouldn't you? Uh, and I think that's unusual for particularly the captains, even though I've been chief for 5 years now, that they're still actually adjusting to that. And it's not that I don't do conflict. I always make that joke. I have no problem with conflict. There's time for conflict, and then there's times to just wait. And it's realistically 99% of the time, my failure in this was not making sure that the people talk to each other.
Yeah,
That's where I failed.
that I've seen that happen with you a couple of times. The other thing is sometimes, and it's rare, rare, but sometimes it's time to just point it uphill,
Right.
right? And uphill from us is going to be like it's actually a city issue. It's a law enforcement issue. It's
Right.
someone else's issue. Instead of trying to internalize it, point it up the hill, right? And knowing when those points in time are, and I, it's so stupid. And my wife and I have this argument the other day because we're hashing out some stuff, you know, like she's like, you just make these decisions and you tell me this is the way it's going to be or it has to be. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I already went through the 311 scenarios in my mind in the 30 seconds that we were talking about this, and only one of them makes sense. And that's not a normal that's not a normal thing for people to be able to do.
Right. To actually plan and calculate.
Yeah. Like it's not just this is the first thing that came to my mind. It's I went through dozens and dozens of scenarios of how this plays out in different ways, and I'm like, this is the answer. And ultimately, most of the time, I'm usually correct. I'm not always correct, but I get there or I'm close. It may need some tweaking on the back end, but I'm usually pretty close to correct. And
Yeah, it's just that's a terrible trait that both of us share. I I like to think of myself as highly analytical
that's it.
and
It's analytical.
and logical. And I have no problem playing the devil's advocate game and sitting there and evaluating the pros and the cons. The issue is that when I make a decision, that's it.
I dig
Like
in.
like we're the decision's made.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm dug
going
in.
I'm going forward. Like I've got other crap I have to do and I don't really give a crap about
And
particularly the what if game.
yeah, I don't care about that either.
I
I
don't
mean, what
I
if a
don't have
big
time for
purple
that.
dinosaur comes out of the sky and eats your head,
Mm,
right? We can what if it to death.
yeah.
And there's 3 million different what ifs. I always look at stuff too, and I run into this with my employees. Like, they're like, what if that doesn't fix it? Well, why would you even entertain the thought that that's not going to fix it
Right.
until you get to that point and then worry about it, right? Just go into it assuming that this is going to work, and then if it doesn't, then let's worry about that then.
See, and for me, I mean, I can give you a very logical reason at why I think this way. One, it was how I was raised.
Yes,
Okay. Number two, uh, I was a math major in college. The answer is the answer.
right.
Okay. Whether you're right or wrong, That's the answer you came up with. Okay. Now bounce and compound that into aviation because I did aviation for almost 2 decades. Okay. That's a kind of an industry that's based on picking a decision and going with it. Uh, I would argue that all three actually lend itself very well to the fire service because I don't hem haw. Doesn't mean that I don't think, and it doesn't mean that I don't analyze, and it doesn't mean that I don't ask questions. But after we've done those things, and I'll add had the discussion. But once we've done those four things, we thought about it, we analyzed it, we had the discussion. We're going like
Yeah. See, I had this teacher in high school. Uh, his name was Grant Lee. So he had both of the generals, right? Uh, he had both of them there. So super guy, taught AP chemistry and physics.
okay,
And he spent a significant amount of the first part of every school year teaching you about deductive reasoning. And I credit a ton of it to just his teachings about deductive reasoning.
yeah.
And I don't think that's something that's pushed anymore. Like it's not a trait that's taught.
So I mean, immediately segueing off of that, one of the biggest problems that I see with chiefs that are struggling's the wrong word, but struggling can be a category, or just having a really hard time, or they're stagnant. At the end of the day, not only do you have to make a decision, but you need to be able to quantify and explain that decision. Okay. And you will still have people that maybe disagree with you, but the fact of the matter is that one, you communicated it, you entertained the discussion. Uh, it goes so much further with people supporting an idea that maybe they're not 100% behind. The very last part to add to this is that if you need to tweak it, tweak it.
Right.
Okay. But I see that a lot where people make a decision, but they can't explain why they made the decision.
Well, and I've seen it in the fire service a lot. Like you'll ride your tactic until you ride it to the ground, to the slab, right? You'll just burn the thing all the way to the slab riding your tactic.
Right.
And you're not of continuously evaluating and doing the deductive reasoning that's involved in understanding when it's time to change that tactic.
Right.
And that's the best example, that you can give for that. And man, you've got to learn that young. You have to learn that deductive reasoning young. You can't learn that at 50.
No, no, you can't. Here's the other deductive reasoning uh, characteristic and trait. It's called confidence.
Yes.
Uh, and you'd be shocked at how far confidence can carry you.
Well, I mean, I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken.
Yeah. And it really is. I mean, I always make this statement. I've said it a ton the last, I swear, 5 days. It's incredible to me at how closely related the fire service, and aviation is. It's actually scary at how close the two industries parallel each other. I would argue that it's the same train, two different tracks.
Well, one of the tracks is in the air.
Right. And it is really incredible at how much aviation and firefighting, particularly the decision making process, the operations side of it. I mean, the training. just the overemphasis on making a decision. I mean, I could talk for this is a whole, like, not just podcast. This is like a lecture series for a year, every week for 2 hours on how the two parallel each other. And at the end of the day, firefighting is one of the very, very few industries out there. You know, I imagine a platoon sergeant in a war, uh, a, again, airplane pilot, firefighter, I would argue cop, uh, are in a position where they actually have to make a decision. Things are really bad. Things are really, really, really bad. And you have to make a decision. And there's no junior woodchuck guidebook. There's no one else to ask a question to. All you have is your experience, your training, and I'm going to just call the fundamental core of the individual that you
Well,
are.
and typically in those situations, the only wrong decision is indecision.
But the kicker is that like 95% of the general public can't make the decision.
That 100% agree, right? The
That's
only
the kicker.
wrong decision is indecision. And that's not to say there's scenarios where it's going to bite you in the butt. It happens, right? It's not a end all be all, but to do nothing is worse than to do something even if it's wrong in most cases.
Right. I mean, and I know we took like a really wild like tangent on this, and I mean it's something that's kind of talked about in the fire service, but it's not. Actually, in aviation, it's talked about quite a bit, where you're faced with an insurmountable odds, and it all comes down to one decision. And for lack of better words, it's just a flip of a coin. And the kicker is that how does that not apply to your day-to-day operations? You don't know what the impending disaster is today, and you have no clue what the disaster will close as today. And just the ability to be able to make a decision makes a huge difference for the outcome of that scenario, situation, circumstance, emergency, event. You just have to make a decision. And the unfortunate thing is, in this entire weird synopsis and scenario that we're talking about, guess what? You don't get time to make that decision.
Yeah, you've got to be able to analyze what you have and what you know, which may not be all of it,
Yeah, you chances are you're probably missing a really important piece of the information.
and you have to make a decision.
Right.
It I think of at one point in time back years ago, I developed some training for construction that that used incident management techniques to manage projects. And it parallels just perfectly, right? And I know that one of our captains has spent significant time developing a program to use incident management systems for cybersecurity, and it parallels perfectly. And it's just understanding how you make decisions and how you delegate responsibilities, because that's a big piece of it, right? Being able to actually delegate things to people or crews to accomplish a common goal and do it in a timely and efficient manner.
Right. And I know it sounds like that we're talking about, like, the classic plane flying towards a mountain or, a sergeant in a trench.
But it could be as simple as the toilet backed up.
Right. Or you have a personnel problem and your inability to make a decision on that. And again, think back to what I said. The times that I failed to communicate between individuals, the times that it bit me the most in the ass. It make a decision. It's okay. It's actually, this is something that we've been emphasizing a ton is, and I know everyone's like, oh my God, the second I say this word or series of words, a disciplinary committee. Well, why do we not actually use a disciplinary committee more often? There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't have to be an execution squad.
Yeah. But the less you use it, the more the propensity to be the execution squad.
Right. Well, and I'll give you a perfect example because let's go down the rabbit hole on this. So we had a series of social media events over the last 15 years. Several of them were so stupid and so minor and so minuscule that they were a nothing burger. The problem is that the disciplinary committee literally treated it like they were the firing squad because that's the only time that a disciplinary committee was ever formed.
They had no reference.
Right. And what ends up happening is this really weird like event, and you had just a couple of idiot kids that made one stupid video at a fire department with it literally extinguished fire extinguishers. They were out of service. I went into it thinking that we were going to like basically just slap them in the back of the head and be like, hey, Jimmy, why don't you actually try and think next time? And it turned out that it was me and one other captain that was doing everything in our power to save these guys. And the discipline was so extreme. That was the compromise, was to come up with something so ludicrously out of proportion to what they did. And then it happened again. And then it happened again. And then we finally had one where, yeah, they should have gotten dragged out back and given the old yeller treatment.
And it's, you have to exercise the cognitive skills to sort through that stuff.
Right.
Right. You have to exercise that disciplinary committee. You have to exercise the ability to have reference to what's truly bad and what's not. And I'm always, I say always, I'm going to 9 times out of 10 err on the side of just ignorance, right?
Well, to me, it's pretty simple.
They didn't know. They didn't
Is it
understand.
literally a legal thing? Okay. I mean, at face value, the sniff test. Is it like, I'm not a cop, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, I'm not a Supreme Court justice. But if I can look at it and be like,
That's bad.
oh, yeah, no, like those are words attached to that. That's assault, or that's theft, or that sounds like a hit and run. Yeah, no, that sounds legal. Versus, you idiot, what the hell were you thinking? I mean, to me, it's a real simple litmus test. It doesn't mean that both don't go to a disciplinary committee. Hell, we just had a recent event, in the grand scheme of things, minor, even though that I surely wanted to hold this person underwater until they stopped moving, because it would have made me feel better. Uh, that should have went to a disciplinary committee. Not the bad thing, the other
The
thing,
other thing.
the other
Yeah.
thing, because we had another one that was,
For sure enough, bad.
yeah, it was bad, and it was like, ooh, this is the elephant foot of Chernobyl. I don't even want to be in the same room with it because it's going to kill me.
Yeah. And you punt it up the hill.
Right. And you get your law enforcement involved and you call city management and you let all parties know and then it takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Because you always hear about this proverbial scenario where, well, what should I do? Because if I do this, it breaks the rules. Well,
Maybe the rules are there for a reason.
can you sleep at night? I mean, is it really that serious of a thing where if you broke the rules, you'd like truly be disturbed and like couldn't sleep at night? That's a decent litmus test. No, it's not on that level. Okay, then let's have a different discussion. I You can have this discussion 75 different ways. The fact of the matter is it just boils down to this. Make a damn decision.
Yeah.
Make the decision based on what's best for the organization, not the firefighter, not the chief, not your buddy, not your mortal enemy. What's best for the organization? Can you be impartial and make a decision? What
Yeah.
is the right decision?
Yep. And maybe not use the AI for that.
Yeah, no, it's not going to help you at all with that.
But it might help you write a policy for disciplinary.
Possible.
Probably might do a decent job at it.
And if you're going down that rabbit hole, definitely look up progressive discipline policies. Don't look up the executioner squad policy and run with that.
Yeah. Everybody is going to screw up. Matt's going to screw up.
Oh, it's
Jesse's
screwed
going to
up.
screw up. Like, we're going to screw it up.
Speaking of mistakes,
Yeah, we're going to screw this up. The trick is how do we basically learn from those mistakes, grow from those mistakes, and do better and make sure that we're not endangering our people, our public, ourselves.
your funding organization, city, county, your fundraisers, your citizens. Yeah, it sounds so cliche. Your job as chief is to do one thing: make the right decision.
Yeah,
Make the right decision.
yeah.
Not the popular one, not the one that benefits you, not the one that benefits whoever. Make the right decision.
And the reality is if you can't make the right decision, 9 times out of 10 the department's going to force you to make the right decision.
Right.
It may be to your demise, but
Yeah, with or without you.
the department's going to force your hand. And I think we ventured way past our AI discussion, but it was a good discussion.
Yeah.
And definitely look to the future and look for technology that can help you be better, right?
One last thing, we'll segue out on this. So I have an uncle that just retired from his little VFD, and it's a tiny place. It's here in Texas, and he stepped away after 52 years,
And held nearly every position in that department at one time or another.
probably multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay. His son is a career firefighter at a major, not only Texas department, but US. And yeah, 52 years. If we add our time together, we're not there.
We're not there yet.
So I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, one, I hope I'm not alive to have 52 years on a department. And two, I don't know how you maintain sanity.
That puts me well into my 70s, right? It's not.
Let's see, 52 would make
It puts me
me,
barely into my 70s.
I'd be 80 for
Late
52.
starter, late starter. But I, hats off to him. Like, hats off to him. Extreme, just dedication to the cause.
Yeah, I don't care how big or small the organization is. Like, what?
And I read the post, and absolutely sincere Facebook post about this event. They're gonna miss him,
Yeah,
even though he may.
particularly he could drive a tanker truck for
Yeah,
them.
and even though he may have not have been as active in the last handful of years, they're still gonna miss him. He left an indelible imprint on that department through his years of service. That's just his marks there.
Yeah, no, it was, and because he's my uncle, and because I know him, I can only imagine what creative four-letter F words people used occasionally in working with him. But I mean, just good God. And the kicker is that's one department.
Yeah,
That's the same organization for 52 years. I'm 41. Like, good God. That's how you put that into perspective. So, yeah, George, good God. I know you could never figure out how to operate a podcast, so maybe your son will hear it, but I'll share it with him. But yeah, 52 years of just doing day in, day out, there with the pager, having
at the constant ready.
yeah,
Yeah,
and just even though he was at a small department, I bet you his total call response is probably even over mine
probably.
at a busy department
Yeah,
because
just
I've only been here 15 years. So,
yeah, yeah. Well,
and I know it's not that he was whatever your definition of active is, but I know he made calls for a long time.
long time. And served in every capacity. It was listed out there. It was great. And it goes, and this is, you and I had never talked about your uncle, really. I
No,
mean, you might have mentioned that he was a member of this department, but it wasn't like uh this was your hero per se, right?
right.
But there's there's a line there between your Uncle George and you, and just the servant's heart side of things, right? Didn't do 52 years because he hated it, or he didn't find it fulfilling, or that he thought it was a waste of time. He did 52 years because he loved it. It was fulfilling to him, and he enjoyed helping people and his neighbors.
Yeah, yeah, period. And
Period.
and and to kind of help put this into perspective, it is a small community, very small community. Okay, so any volunteer they have is exceedingly valuable. Um, and the vast majority of their call volume would have been wildland related. I do know that George didn't run medicals. Uh, I think that's genetic. Um, and it is. He did a ton of wildland, did a ton of structure, ton of car accident, basically everything non-medical. But in his area, it would have been wildland and structure fire. and car accident,
Mm-hmm.
particularly the last, I don't know, 15 years. Because I know his area picked up a box. Like his department didn't run an ambulance, and they were a true FRO. And he has creative things to say about medical, but he's also not an EMR, EMT, paramedic, and uh, he had no interest in being able to do that because he just didn't have the time to go to those classes. So his focus was always on the fire and rescue side.
But I guarantee you, in 52 years, he made a difference.
Yes, a huge difference
Yeah.
for thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands,
Without a doubt.
probably tens of thousands, because it's very rarely that a structure fire or a car accident involves one
person, right?
So, yeah, 52 years, and it's just like, oh my God, like that's a long time.
Yeah. In October of this year, it'll be 26 for me.
26.
Yeah.
Let's see. What you said October?
Mm-hmm.
Oddly enough, I think I'm October also.
Yeah.
So October would be 15 or 16.
Yeah. October 99.
2010.
Yeah.
Now I was on before that, but yeah, October 2010.
Yep.
That's when it started. Yeah, I don't know. Fuck. Yeah. I guess the first F bomb I've ever dropped on here.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, 52 years. Jesus. Like I said, I'm 41. That's just to put that into perspective.
Yeah. He's been doing it longer than you've been alive.
Yeah. With the same department
Yep.
on top of that.
Yep. So, congratulations, George, for your retirement. Well deserved.
I'm trying to think how old he is.
Well, he's at least 52.
He's at least 52. I think George, let me see, my dad's 71 right now. He's about to be 72. God, George is at least 78.
Is he?
Gotta be.
Hell of a deal.
Gotta be. Screw it. We'll say 76 just in case, because that'll probably compel him to listen to it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah. Oh, my Lord. That's a long time.
So, let's put a bow on this, but before we do, hopefully the link in the description for the merch store, right?
Yes.
Hopefully that's in here. I don't see a reason why it's not. There's enough stuff already in the store to get the link. Like there'll be new stuff added continuously until we find out what you like, right?
I'm drunk enough. I can't remember. Is there coffee yet?
No, but there will be.
Okay.
We're gonna work on coffee. Coffee
Okay.
is gonna be an option, right?
But there's
You're
flip
gonna
flops and shot glasses.
There will be flip flops and shot glasses, t-shirts, hats, stickers. Who knows? Maybe a mouse pad, right? We're gonna load this thing up with just a bunch of different stuff for options, so you can find something you want that represents the podcast, and hopefully, you buy something, right?
Yes. Because all it'll do is support the podcast.
Yep. Yep.
All right. If you ever feel like reaching out to us, man, I almost feel guilty closing real quick because we have our buddy in the Rust Belt. Quick reach out to him.
Yeah.
Because I feel bad not talking about this.
Well,
So
let's do it.
we had a listener reach out. He had a great question. And his question was uh, his department. I don't have his permission to talk about like his department or state, so I'm going to keep it vague. But he's a real small department. They take training legitimate. and they send their people to a fire academy. But the problem is that they have to send their people with gear that is NFPA compliant and current to the academy. So they've been buying gear all this time. Well, the problem is that on the backside of that, let's say they just send 10 people, well, maybe only two stay. Well, God almighty, that's actually a pretty serious investment uh, to be able to only have two people stay. So the email I sent to this individual was, instead of buying gear, just rent it. And then after the academy, if they stay on the department for X amount of time, then buy them gear.
Yeah.
But don't spend the money up front.
Yeah. Yeah. Put them in that rented gear. Let them get through their academy.
Yeah.
Put them in whatever you have available after that, and just see where it goes.
Right.
The way he kind of talked, it was just like they either weren't finishing the academy or they were just fading away shortly thereafter.
Right.
And just save your nickels and just rent it.
Right. Because even if you buy the cheapest set of gear out there on the street, let's say it's $2,000, you send 5 people, it's 10 grand. Well, if you rent gear for the length of that academy, let's say it's $500, well, 3 months, okay. I mean, you're only talking about spending, oh, Christ, I just screwed up the math. 15,000,
2,500.
1,500, yeah, 2,500 versus the 10. Yes, so you still spending money? Oh yeah. But how much did you save?
Yeah.
A huge amount of money. And I can tell you, for everyone that's listening out there, renting PPE is a thing. And uh yeah, like, that's not a big deal. And you don't have to rent PPE from the fire academy either. Like,
Yeah,
that's not a
there's
thing.
tons of companies out there.
Yeah.
And some of them rent nationwide. I know your company will entertain the nationwide
We're
rental.
we're nationwide.
Yeah. It's not this Mount Everest of ordeal to get this done.
Right. And then
It's
that
just
way,
not.
if you're able to save 75% on your typical expenditure, do it to it.
Yeah. I will tell you, if the company you rent from also sells PPE, which some do and some don't,
Right.
right? If the company that you rent from also sells PPE, when it comes time to buy the PPE, please try to make an effort to consider buying that PPE from that company.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they in most cases will absolutely be the better fit for buying the PPE. They'll do more for you, they'll take care of you. Like you already have a relationship. It's a vested interest in them selling you the gear.
I go out of my way to try not make this a company podcast, but my company has a free loaner gear program. If you buy our PPE, we have free loaner gear. The only thing you pay for is shipping and cleaning. So, like, all I can say is that $2,500 that we were talking about just went away.
Yeah.
That's how big of a difference that makes.
Yeah. It's actually a really good way to more or less hedge your bet against somebody leaving.
Right. Now, let's come back to reality. Different state. I would always encourage you to work with your local vendors. I'm a big believer in that. I assure you, there's someone local in your state, because I trust you. Just believe me, particularly off the location you gave me. I guarantee you there's someone that rents PPE for this exact thing you're talking about. And like, it's a thing. So whenever we get this posted, I'll make sure to send you a link to the podcast and tell you that you're at the end.
Yep.
With that said, you can always reach out to us, and we do really appreciate any questions that come to us. You can find us at ittasteslikeburningcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube at It Tastes Like Burning Podcast. You can find us on Patreon. We always appreciate the likes, clicks, and subscribes. That makes a big difference. Don't forget to do that. And check out our merch store.
Yep. Link will be in the description.
This is Matt.
This is Jesse.
Have a good evening.